Hey Wealth Builders! Welcome back to another episode of The Bemused. My name is Mishak.
And I'm Akiva.
And on this channel, we talk about all things personal finance for young adults just like you and us.
So if you're into that thing, go on ahead and hit that big red subscribe button. And while you're at it, click that notification bell so you never miss when we post brand new valuable videos just like this one.
So in this video, we're going to be talking about something that we know everyone who is probably filing taxes some sort wants to know. If you haven't received your stimulus check, what do you do? So you're still waiting for your stimulus check and you know you should have received one. And that's okay. We're going to tell you exactly what you need to do. So first things first. You're going to check to make sure that your payment was actually issued through the IRS's Get My Payment tool. And the link for that is going to be in the description. Or maybe some of you are like me where you've received something in the mail telling you what the status of your payment is. So now that you've determined that your payment has actually been issued, here's what you need to do next. So if you've had direct deposit, this section is for you. So if your payment was issued through a direct deposit and it's been more than 5 days since your payment has been issued, you want to contact your financial institution. That's the first step for you. So do not contact the IRS, contact your financial institution. And do not contact your financial institution if it is before 5 days. And that's just because they may not have any information pertaining to your economic impact payment. So if it's been 5 days or more and your financial institution cannot give you any information about your payment, then it's time for you to put a trace on with the IRS. And don't worry, we're going to tell you more about that in just a minute.
Now for those of you whose payments came through either a check or by debit card, this section is for you. If there have been no changes to your address is still the same as it was when you filed your last tax return. That's the address the IRS has on file. And you haven't received your first stimulus check, you should wait at least 4 weeks after that first stimulus check is set to be issued. Again, you'd know what date it was issued based on if you went and found that information on the Get My Payment portal or the IRS sent you a letter in the mail. It would have that date, that information. So for the first stimulus check, you want to wait at least 4 weeks after that issue date before requesting a trace. Or if you're waiting on your second stimulus check, you don't want to put in a trace until at least February 24th, which of course at this point is in the past. So if there's been no changes to your address, you should go on ahead and issue a trace with the IRS at this point. Now, if your address has changed since the last time you filed taxes, so therefore you have a forwarding address feature on file, it's going to delay things a little bit for you. So if you are waiting on your first stimulus check, then you want to put on a trace if it has been at least 6 weeks since your payment was issued instead of 4 to account for the address change and the forwarding time that'll take. Or if you're waiting on your second stimulus check, you do not want to put in a trace with the IRS until March 10th, which is tomorrow. So you don't got long to wait if that's your situation. Now, if you happen to have a foreign address, your address is not within the United States, you want to wait at least 9 weeks after your first stimulus check payment was issued to track down that one. Or if you're trying to track down your second stimulus check, you want to wait until March 31st, 2021 before requesting a payment trace with the IRS. Also keep in mind that if you have a foreign address, of course the pandemic has severely limited and affected postal service, so just give it a little bit of wiggle room. Even though they're saying 9 weeks after the first one and the end of March for the second one, give it also a little bit of time because that's also caused disruptions that they weren't anticipating. And this is very important as a reminder, please do not try, don't even attempt to issue a trace before the dates that we just talked about, because if you do, the IRS is not going to be able to do anything about it until that minimum date that we just talked about. So follow those rules depending on your situation, because again, they ain't touching nothing until the date that we just specified. So if you think you're going to jump the line by doing it early, you're not. So just wait until those dates and then put in your payment trace requests.
So now, this trace that we've been mentioning throughout this video multiple times. So there are two ways that you can request a trace. So the first way that you can request a trace is by calling the IRS. And I know
fun time.
That's like a thing on its own, especially now during COVID. Before, the lines to speak to someone on the IRS on the phone were like hours upon end. I'm pretty sure it's going to be just as bad. But if you want to get your money, you got to make that phone call and you got to wait. So put the phone on speaker, put yourself on mute, and dial this number, 800-919-9835. And we will place that on the screen somewhere for you to see it as well. And the second way is by mailing or faxing the form 3911 to the IRS. And the actual title of this form is the Taxpayer Statement Regarding Refund, and it is in PDF form, so it should be relatively easy to complete. So now what I know you're gonna ask, how do I fill out this form? And don't worry, we're gonna tell you.
So to fill out form 3911, the first thing you're going to want to do is identify which payment you're actually trying to trace, whether it's the first stimulus check or the second. So you want to write either the words EIP1 or EIP2 at the top of the form. EIP, of course, standing for Economic Impact Payment, which is what EIP stands for. Then you want to answer all of the refund related questions on the form as they relate to your economic impact payment or stimulus check. Specifically, when you're completing item 7 under section 1, you want to check the boxes for individual as the type of return, enter 2020 as the tax period, don't write anything for the date filed, and then sign the form. And if you file married filing jointly, you're going to need to have both spouses signing that form.
And most importantly, if you have already requested the trace via phone, do not, and I repeat, do not send the filled out form by mail or by fax. More than likely, all this will do is either confuse the IRS or just make matters worse for yourself. So pick one method and go with it.
And if you are choosing to mail or fax that form 3911, we'll have a link in the description box below as to exactly where you need to send it, because it's going to be different depending on where you live.
So now, what happens after you've requested your trace? So generally, and we're using the word generally very loosely here, about 6 weeks after the IRS has received the request for the trace, you will receive some sort of communication from them. Please keep in mind that with COVID-19, operations are a little bit slower than normal, so you might receive a response from them a little bit later, and that is completely normal. So the IRS will process missing payments in one of two ways. So if the check has not been cashed, they will reverse the payment and notify you. If you happen to receive the original check that was sent to you at a later date, you are to return that check back to the IRS. Don't cash it, or return it. You will need to claim the recovery rebate credit on your 2020 tax return in order to receive the funds.
Now, if when the IRS completes their trace, they find that the check that was sent to you was indeed cashed, doesn't mean it had to be by you. Somebody could have, gotten a hold of it and cashed it somehow. But if they find that that check was indeed cashed, what they're going to do is they're going to send you what's called a claim package, which will include a copy of the cashed check for your records. So you want to follow the instructions in that package. Then the Treasury Department's Bureau of the Fiscal Service will review your package, and they'll compare your signature against the one that was used to cash the check, and they'll make the determination as to whether or not they're going to reverse the payment. And now if the payment is reversed, which is what you'd hope for, you will then, of course, need to claim the recovery rebate credit on your 2020 tax return. Now, you might be wondering, so do I have to just not file my taxes until this whole thing is squared away for 2020? So here's how that works. If you do decide to file your 2020 tax return while your payment is being traced, if the payment trace has not been completed, do not put the amount of your economic impact payment on line 16 or 19 of the recovery rebate credit worksheet. Don't include it there. You may receive a notice from the IRS later on saying that the amount of your recovery rebate credit has been adjusted or changed. That is normal. That adjustment will be made essentially after the trace is complete and they've come to their conclusions as to whether they need to reverse that payment to you. And you will not need to take any additional action to receive the credit.
So thanks so much for watching. Tell us in the comments down below if you think this information is useful and helpful. Share it with a friend if you think that it's something that they can get some use out of. And thank you again so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss when we post new content. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.